Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Bhanu Babu Ilindra from BBA Law Group. Please note that Sakshi TV now has three immigration shows every week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheila Murthy, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Prashanti Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with attorney Bhanu Ilindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email usa@sakshi.com or call 866-725-7441. Okay, so before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice. Use of content is for general information purposes only. And Sakshi TV or its agents in the USA or our guests on this show are not responsible for use of the information as a legal advice. If you need specific legal advice, please contact attorneys directly. We will be also taking any general immigration questions along with the today's topic. Okay. Hello, Bhanu Garu. Welcome to the show. So,
Thank you.
how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to the show again, and
It's a
happy to do the show all the time with Sakshi TV.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Bhanu Garu. Okay, so just before we begin our topic, can you please provide information on your law offices, practice areas, and your experience?
Sure, Radhika Garu. Thank you very much for asking me that. My name is Bhanubabu Ilindrandi. I'm an immigration attorney. I've been practicing immigration law in the US for 17 years. I represented in thousands of matters before the USCIS and Department of Labor and various other administrative agencies, basically, pertaining to immigration matters, basically. We practice in all types of immigration matters. We do employment-based immigration, family-based immigration, even the EB5 investor visas, we handle them basically very, very well. And any other types of F1 student issues, J1 issues, basically, whatnot, any immigration matter that is capable, that is possibly we can handle, we handle them. Our firm name is BBI Law Group PC. I founded this firm in 2008. Since then, I've been running this firm very successfully for the past 13 years. And it's located in Herndon, Virginia. Our website is www.bbilawgroup.com. Our office number is 703-496-7722. My email ID is bhanu@bbilawgroup.com. And if they want to have if the audience who are actually watching the show right now, if they want to give us a call, want to seek a private consultation or an advice, they're welcome to do that. They can actually reach us through a phone, by email, or even by a website also. If they go to our website, if they go and click on the contact page, basically, they should be able to schedule an appointment there. They'll see all the slots available for the appointment, and they should be able to schedule an appointment with us accordingly. And thanks once again for asking me this information, and very happy to assist the Sakshi audience with their immigration matters.
It's a pleasure once again, and we are glad to know your information so that a lot of our callers and who are watching the show will know your information so that they can contact you directly. Yeah. Okay, so before we begin our topic, today's topic we have is latest immigration updates pertaining to travel restrictions due to COVID-19 pandemic. And we also know that this is continuation to the last week's topic. So we will continue the knowledge session this week along with the news and updates on latest immigration, followed by any question and answers. So for all the viewers, before we get into this topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen for questions related to the immigrations, and also you can ask tips. Okay, Bhanu Garu. So do we have any latest updates on the immigration this week?
Not much updates this week. If it pertaining to, especially with employment-based green cards, with employment-based immigration, uh, most of the times I speak in this call about the employment-based immigration aspects, basically. So my answers also tends towards the immigration, employment-based immigration audience, basically. And not much updates on the employment-based category right now, except that we know that the visa bulletin has come 2 weeks ago, and then the dates for the EB2 for the Indian nationals hasn't moved forward that much. Basically, they stayed stagnant, and for EB3 they actually moved for 6 months. They moved to till mid-July, mid to 2000 till January 2014. Basically, that's a very good news for the individuals who are filing in EB3 category. Now, if anybody did not file or if they missed filing in the month of October, November, December, when they had a chance to file their EB3 I-140 petitions and 485 petitions, whose priority is in 2014, now they can actually do that. They can actually file their 485s along with the I-140s if they have to downgrade and everything. We're very happy to assist them if they need help on that. So that's a very good news for them in the month of the August. Hopefully the trend will continue. I think it's going to slow down for the EB2 in September. Again in October, I think it's going to move forward aggressively for the EB2 category also, along with the EB3 category.
That's a great news. A lot of people will love to hear this news actually.
Yes, yes. And other thing is as pertaining to our topic basically, right? Basically in our topic, basically in June, in the last month, basically they have updated. See, as we have now, we know that there are restrictions to travel to the US from 33 countries across the world, basically, because of the COVID 19 pandemic. And unfortunately, India is also one of those countries from where, if anybody wants to come to US, irrespective which country national they are, they're restricted to travel to US. They cannot travel to US, basically.
So what are the latest COVID-19 travel restrictions, Bhanu Garu?
Yeah, I'm going to go on that slowly, Radhika Garu, one by one. See, the travel restrictions for COVID-19 is that unless you are a US citizen or a US green card holder, or you are a spouse and minor children of US citizens or a lawful permanent residents, or you are a parents or legal guardians of a US citizen or a lawful permanent resident who is a minor unmarried under the age of 21 years of age, basically, and other crew members or pilots or any individuals coming into this country upon the request of the US government, or certain F1 visa holders, certain J1 visa holders, basically, or if somebody is coming here to work on the any COVID-19 project or COVID-19 pandemic issues, basically, other than those individuals, everybody else are restricted to travel to the US, especially from 33 countries. That is basically the countries which are in Shenzhen area, India, China, Brazil, UK, Ireland, and other countries, basically. So except these individuals, nobody can come to US if they stayed at least even one day within the last 14 days because of the COVID-19 pandemic right now, especially because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this proclamation order has been continuously going on for different countries, but from India, they actually commenced on in May 4th, 2021, basically, and this proclamation order is still in place. It has not been taken off. It is still in place. But however, as I said, these individuals are exempted to travel to US anytime, basically, the individuals I stated. And also the Department of State and Department of Homeland Security Department of State especially came and said that there are certain individuals who are actually working in the critical infrastructure sectors in the country, and these individuals necessarily required for the entity to carry that essential function of critical infrastructure, basically, then those individuals may qualify for the national interest exception, and they can actually apply for that exception and then able to travel to the US, basically.
Yeah, I was about to ask the same question. I think I heard about national interest exception, even for H4 also. And who are H4 EAD and whose spouses are here with H1, I think we can apply for, whoever with national interest exception, right? And they can travel.
That's correct. Not only the individuals who are coming on H1B and L1, basically, even their spouses also will be able to come into this country if the principal beneficiary or applicant qualifies for the national interest exception, basically.
Yeah.
They have to prove that the principal beneficiary applicant do qualify for national interest exception, and if they can prove that, then dependents can come into this country without any problem if they're coming on H4 visa or L2 visa or any other dependent visa, basically.
Right. So this means there are no travel restrictions for any of the US citizens. Like they can directly go and come. Does they have to do any quarantine or somewhere, or just they can travel?
No, they can come. They don't have any restrictions basically. Only thing is, whatever restrictions they have is basically is that they have to, depending upon the CDC guidelines, right? Basically, whether they have to do the any COVID-19 test basically, or if they're vaccinated. Some countries, if they're coming from some certain countries, if they're vaccinated, they don't have to do any tests basically before getting onto the flights or anything like that. Those are the things which everybody has to go through, whether it's a US citizen or whether you're a legal permanent resident or anybody basically. But there are no other restrictions for these individuals. If you're a US citizen, you should be able to travel without any problem between US and India or between any one of those 33 countries basically.
Okay. So that means this travel restriction apply to foreign nationals only who are entering into the US. So other than India, are there any other countries that they're permitted to travel into United States, or the restrictions are only for India as of now?
As I said, the restrictions are for 33 countries basically.
Okay. Yeah.
There are 33 countries in the world which are restricted. People are restricted to travel from those countries to US basically.
Okay.
And India, China, UK, all Schengen area countries, Brazil, these are the main countries basically. Schengen area countries means usually all Scandinavian countries basically, right? And so Italy, all those comes into it because the countries which you can travel through Schengen visa are the Schengen area countries. All those countries basically, people are restricted to travel from those countries directly to the US, unless they can travel to a different country that allows them to travel over there and quarantine for 14 days, and that country, and for the individuals who are traveling from that country, doesn't have any restrictions to travel to US basically. you
Okay.
know and recently, day before yesterday actually, US government did announce the travel restrictions between US and Canada and the Mexico also because of the COVID-19. Now, between Canada and the Mexico also, only essential travel is permitted right now from day before yesterday. Before that, it was opened up. The borders were opened up between the three countries, but now they said that if people are coming from Canada or Mexico to the US, only for the essential purposes they will allow. What do you mean by essential purpose? Means some people work across the border basically. That means people who live in Canada, they work in the US, or people who live in Mexico, they work in the US. They are allowed to come into this country because that's an essential in nature basically. You know,
Right. Yeah.
so those are the things we have to understand right now basically.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, very good points, Bhanugaru. Is there any specific COVID-related guidelines for students in J1 status?
Yes, basically, I mean, J1 students are also exempt from coming into this country if they're basically pursuing their education. If they're coming as a J1, certain type of J1 visa holders. J1 is nothing but exchange visitors into this country. Basically, some of them can coming as an au pair. There's a vast list of J1 visa holders. Basically, they can come into this country. They're exempted from the travel restrictions if they're coming from these countries. Basically, especially if somebody coming on a J1 visa to do their residency in this country, they're exempt basically, right? So many residency programs, especially for the physicians, those programs usually sponsor J1 visa for the individuals to do the residency program for the physicians basically in their institutions basically. So there are several J1 visa holders are exempt coming into this country. It's very difficult for me to identify each and every category of J1 visa in this call, but in this show basically, but that's what it is basically.
Yeah, right. Agree. Yeah. So, are the students eligible to receive any COVID economic stimulus relief or something like that?
No, ma'am, no such thing. No such thing.
Okay.
Uh,
Bhanugaru, we have a caller here, Pradeep from Texas. Hello,
sure.
Pradeep Garu.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear. I can hear you. This is Prabhakar here.
Yes, Mr. Prabhakar, how can I help you?
Yeah, I recently got a green card from my dependents, and my question here is, my dependents need to go to India because my son is studying in a college in India. So what I wanted to know whether I could, be allowed to go to India for 5 months, complete, one semester, and bring him back to US for about say a week or two, and then again send him back to India for another 5 months to complete the next semester, like that. Can I do like that and continue to keep the green card in what you call it, the continuation of being in US itself? While as a parent, I will be staying in US alone.
Mhm. So
So
basically,
should I mandatory do a I-130 and then ask for a this thing, or I can adopt this methodology also?
so basically, so it's not a good idea if somebody wants to study abroad and they're going abroad, and if they're permanent resident in the US, it is okay to do that. But however, the period which you stay outside the country may not be used for the purpose of seeking naturalization after 5 years in the US, basically. Okay? And the best way I would advise is basically for them to avoid any issues, basically, whether they're maintaining permanent residency or not, is two things I want them to do. One is basically filing Form N470, which is basically application to preserve residence for naturalization purposes, basically. It's very important for them to file that application because students and the individuals working for the US companies, and if they are to be stationed abroad for such a long period of time, it's better for them to file this Form N470. I think if you have any questions about that, you can reach me privately, Mr. Prabhakar. I'm very happy to discuss in detail and everything. And also, it's always wise, basically, what if in case if the individual is not able to come back within 5 months? You're trying to play within the regulation saying that if the individual comes within 6 months, he's okay, basically, right? Because there's no presumption that he abandoned residence. If he crosses more than 6 months, then the presumption can come into existence. But if he crosses more than 11 months, then there's a presumption that he abandoned his residency, basically. Those are the things which we're talking about here. And my advice will be is basically is that it's always better to play game safe under the circumstances. The best thing is basically is that just apply for a re-entry permit, get a re-entry permit, and go to India. If he's coming back within 5 months, that's okay, as long as re-entry permit is valid for 2 years anyway. So that's one thing which you can do. And my advice is basically is that if he's going to study for 4 or 5 years in the US, in India, it's better to file Form N470, application to preserve residence for naturalization purposes for your son. About your wife or your whoever is accompanying him, I think
Yeah, my
you need to
wife will
consider.
also be accompanying him because he's a college-going student. That's why.
Yeah. Same thing, same thing. Your wife also should do the same thing. Apply for entry permit and apply for N470 and then go to India. I mean, of course, still they can show the residency here basically because you are here and everything here, but the physical presence also is required for them to attain naturalization in the future and also not to have any issues with abandonment or anything like that. That's what it's. What if something goes wrong with the COVID-19 and there are no flights to come from India to US for a certain period of time? You know, so it's better to have re-entry permit and the N470 application filed with the USCIS before leaving to the US. Basically, I think that's a good idea. But in the end, any questions you have, you're welcome to reach me privately. I think Radhika Garu will provide again the contact details of our form and everything in this call, in this show right now. I think that's my humble advice, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Prabhakar Garu, for giving a call. So you can reach us or you can reach out to Banu Ilindra Garu for any private questions. Before we go to our question, all the viewers who are watching this show, if you want to give a call, please call to the given numbers which are scrolling down. Okay, Banu Garu, let's continue our topic. Where did we stop? I think are students eligible to receive COVID economic stimulus relief?
No, they're not. They're not
Okay.
eligible. they're not eligible for any stimulus payments, basically because they're not uh, they're not eligible actually.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And also, we were talking about national interest exception for US travel, right? Like, can you explain how do we seek the national interest exception for US travel for the people who want to come to US?
I'm citing an example how to apply in India rather than anywhere else, basically, for the national interest exception, basically. Okay. Uh, in India, basically, the Department of State, that means basically Indian consulates, Indian embassy actually provide a notification saying that if anybody is seeking a national interest exception, depending upon the jurisdiction of the consulate where they're residing, they have to send an email to the particular designated email. They've given designated emails, which is basically for each and every state, every consulate, basically, and then you have to send an email to that consulate with all the required documents showing that how one qualifies for national interest exception, either prior to them traveling to US if they have a valid visa, or prior to them applying for a visa or attending for an interview at the Indian consulate if they need a visa to come to the US, basically. Okay, so that is the process which they have to follow. And what documents you can submit for the national interest exemption seeking is very subjective. It depends upon individual to individual, case by case basis, and what kind of a job they're doing, what kind of a position they are in, and everything. All those things will factor in, basically. If somebody is working for the US government and his position is so critical in the US government, he has to be here, or government buildings or anything like that, then it is one of the critical infrastructure job, he can qualify for that. Or if he's working for a research organization, basically, or research lab, where they're conducting research pertaining to COVID-19 pandemic or any other important significance issues with the healthcare or anything like that, they may qualify for the national interest exception, right? Many who are in the information technology sector also do qualify for national interest exception. And see, for many of the employers basically who are working with us, and if they want to bring their employees, we did advise them basically to get a letters from the companies and from the clients of theirs for whom actually these individuals are going to provide services directly or indirectly, basically, you know. And in that way, we basically ask them to send those information to the consulates through the designated email wherever the candidate is going to attend the interview, and then attend the interview if he has to go for a stamping or get an approval, then prior to traveling to US, basically.
Okay, okay, yeah. Bhanu Garu, we have a caller from Bay Area, Krishna Garu. Hello, Krishna Garu. Can you hear us?
Hello.
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 Yeah, welcome to the show, Krishna
Yeah.
Garu. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah. So thanks for this opportunity. I just want to ask my question. Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Please go ahead.
Sure. So I actually have applied for an EB1. My I-485 is applied, and I have received the receipt. I also went through a biometric. My I-140 is already approved. I received my I-765 approval and also the EAD card. So I just want to know whether I'm allowed to change my job, and if I have to change my job, what is the procedure the new company should do? I also received my receipt for I-485J.
Okay.
And I'm here on L1A visa.
Oh, this is an L1A. So basically, I'm assuming this is an EB1C category. Am I right, sir?
Yes, 1C category. That's right.
Okay. The simple thing, sir, if you're changing, if your I-140 has been approved and it has been at least 180 days since you filed your 485, then you're eligible to port your green card to any employer in the same or similar occupation, irrespective of whether EB1, EB2, or EB3. Either one of those three categories can actually port their employment to a new employer as long as they're going to work in the same or similar occupation. The only thing is, if you want to port your green card to a new employer, then ensure that new employer actually submits I-485J supplement to the USCIS along with you, basically. If they don't submit them, if your old employer withdraws your I-140, there's a risk of denial for you of your green card because there is no filing of your portability request with the USCIS. Now, USCIS requires you to affirmatively make a request with them to port your green card to a new employer. Previously, it wasn't like that. I mean, a few years ago, before 485J was introduced, it was the USCIS responsibility to inquire whether somebody actually ported the green card or not. But right now, because USCIS actually shifted the burden on the individual who's actually porting the employment, you have to affirmatively inform the USCIS by filing your 485J supplement if you want to port your green card. If you do not want to put your green card, ensure if you want to go back again, if you want to get a green card through your current employer, then ensure that your current employer still continues your green card, and you should not have any problem going and joining in the new employer based upon the EAD that has been approved to you.
Got it. So one, can I have a follow-up question? Is it okay?
That's okay.
Yeah. So it's already more than 180 days since I applied my 485, so I think I'm okay with it. But what I'm also hearing is that to port the green card process to the new employer, I have to wait for another 180 days after receiving my EAD. Is that correct?
That's completely incorrect.
That's incorrect. Okay.
Completely
that is not correct. That's what you're saying.
In order to port your employment, the requirement is that your I-485 pending for 180 days. You can port your green card on H-1B also, right? You may be working on H-1B also. You don't have to work on EAD in order to port your green card. You may be working on L-1A.
Got it.
If you're working on L-1A with other company, if you're putting your green card.
Got it. Understood. So basically, I'm good to join if the new employer promises me to support the green card process and port it and provide an I-485J. That's what I understand from your conversation. Is that right, sir?
That is correct, sir. That is correct.
Okay, that's fantastic. Really, thanks for your time, and these kind of calls really help. I really appreciate your time here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Garu. Yeah, that's a very valuable information, Bhanu Garu. A lot of people are waiting for this type of, to get the answers from where we can, because we can search on internet, but at the same time, coming from you is a very a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Really. So before we conclude, I just wanted to ask one more question, because we are talking about this pandemic, travel and all, how can we get a new travel signature before traveling to the US?
Travel?
Travel signature.
Signature? You mean to say for NIE? Basically, what do you mean?
Sorry, NIE.
Okay. We call it as NIE approval or NIE permit. We don't call it as signature, basically. As I said, you have to, as explained prior to the call, that if you're applying in India, every consulate has a designated email. Whichever country, whichever consulate you're going, especially in India, they're given a designated emails for each and every consulate. So, for example, if you're going to Mumbai, then you have to apply for Mumbai NIE.state.gov, whatever the email it is. I don't recollect in my mind the exact email address, but that is the email you have to send your documents, making a request for NIE, basically. And once you send with them, then the Department of State, the consulate is going to review your documents and determine whether you qualify for NIE or not. See, I will tell you one thing. In reality, for information technology professionals, they're giving NIE very easily because it qualifies. Because information technology qualifies as one of the critical infrastructure sector. I did not see major complications for them. If somebody does a bad job in submitting the documentation or making a request, see, it's all about the presentability, right? How well you write your cover letter, how well you document your evidence to the officer to review. Those things are very, very important because it's a factual based issue which they have to adjudicate and approve your NIE so that you can travel to the US if you have a valid visa. If you do not have a valid visa, you should be able to get the visa at the consulate, basically.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Bhanu Garu. Thank you so much for the valuable information. And it's very nice talking to you. We'll connect again with the same show next Friday. Thank you once again. So, I mean, everyone has watched this special immigration show with attorney Babu Illindra Garu, right? So, if you have any questions, please contact him directly. And I mean, numbers are scrolling on the screen. Please contact. They are like it's BBI Law Group. Okay, signing off for today. We'll talk next week again with the same topic, with different topic, Manu Garu. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Thank you all.